Commander Pro 50S offering you the best of both worlds.
The powerful and race-winning combo of the 134-volt C40 motor and a 3600 watt-hour battery pack from the EX30 with the form factor and hydraulic suspension from the best-selling veteran wheel, the Sherman S.
Plus the latest Gen 50S battery pack offering greater power delivery, higher top speed, and battery longevity. If it was released by any company other than Bigo Extreme, it would probably have been huge news. But instead, it's drowning in a sea of more powerful and exciting wheels like the ET Max or the GT Pro. But every wheel deserves a fair shake, so this week I'm gonna ride the Commander Pro 50S and tell you whether or not this red-haired stepchild of a wheel deserves more love. Roll the intro.
Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and help spread the uni gospel.
And shout out to Jason at eWheel for sending me this Commander Pro 50S for review purposes, but as usual, opinion expressed is strictly my own. And you see that like button underneath the video? That is one sure way to tell the Google algorithm that you want EUC video to be front and center. Now help a brother out! Now, for those of us who haven't been keeping score, and honestly, there are probably better things for you to spend time on.
But there are now 5 wheels in the ExtremeBull Commander lineup: the original Commander, the Commander Pro, the Commander Mini, and now the upgraded Commander Pro 50S and the GT Pro.
Each of them some kind of weird parallel universe version of a veteran electric unicycle. With the original Commander meant to compete with the Sherman, and the Commander Pro meant to compete with the Sherman S. And like a cheap teenage romance novel, when your identity is so very much intertwined with your rival, things inevitably get a bit messy. Like the last minute switch from 100 to 134 volt to upstage the 100 volt Sherman S. That and the messy internal layout because of the late controller swap resulted in this wheel being blacklisted from multiple dealers.
But as most hardcore Bigo fans should know, the best wheel to buy is not the latest and greatest, but the later batch 3 or 4 version of an earlier release where all the experimental kinks have been worked out and you're left with the sweet, juicy essence of a high-performance electric unicycle. And that is exactly what the Commander Pro 50S promises to be.
Which brings us to my review, and as usual, I'm gonna rate the Commander Pro 50S based on 5 different criteria, and they are convenience, design, performance, ride quality, and finally value on a score of 1 to 5. Starting with convenience, let's just be honest, if you're buying an ExtremeBull wheel, you likely don't care very much for it. There's now a flip-up trolley handle that is CNC alloy instead of the original cheap plastic, and it actually locks, is positioned well for balance and control. Much better than that cheap flip-up handle that come with the ET Max. But that is unfortunately it when it comes to highlight. Yes, there is a pair of functional headlights and tail lights which work as well as something you will buy from a dollar store. And you don't get a kickstand, so you have to rest it face down like it did something bad. It does have this wide and very generous fender, which is great, except that this wheel isn't particularly waterproof and will likely melt like the Wicked Witch of the West. If you ever try riding in the wet. And the high voltage charge port remain on top, perfect place to catch all the rain coming down, and this thin rubber gasket is the only thing between you and disaster. It is still fundamentally the same flaw wheel from 2 years ago and earns a 1.5 out of 5 for convenience. Next, let's talk about design, which has always been a distinguished feature of ExtremeBull wheel. Where Bigo experiment with electrical system, ExtremeBull do so with design.
From its very first product, the ill-fated X-Men, there had always been a bit of a flair, shall we say.
But in that teenage, my first CNC machine go nuts sort of way, and the Commander Pro is pretty much that.
It has little cohesive character, is plasticky, messy, and not particularly attractive to look at, and since they only designed a third of this wheel, they surely wouldn't mind if I give them a third of the score for design.
Fine, convenience, and pretty design are for slow riders and boring commuters. And you, sir, are a die-hard EUC enthusiast with a distinguished taste with extreme speed and live to smell the ionized air from a speed charger in the morning.
And the only thing that brings that warm, fuzzy feeling to your loin are speed and power, then the Commander Pro 50S has plenty to love.
You are paying a premium for the Samsung 50S battery, which is like the beluga caviar of the lithium-ion battery cell packs. But unlike mystery fish bits, there are very real and measurable benefits.
The Commander Pro 50S sag lasts under extreme low while maintaining higher output through extensive charge cycle, which translate directly to greater top speed, more torque through the entire speed band, which come in mighty helpful when you're riding the beeps and trying to eke out just a bit more speed.
Having just rode the 168-volt ET Max, I was very surprised at how close this wheel was to the performance of that absolute monster.
Insane tasks like hitting 40 miles per hour on a single New York City block is just as effortless and adrenaline pumping exciting, but the lower voltage and higher cell capacity from the 50S pack will certainly translate to greater range.
Combined with a mighty C40 high torque motor and a new controller seasoned with extra MOSFET and a higher peak discharge rating, the Commander Pro 50S should theoretically be what electric wet dreams should be made of. If this happened, the original wheel that ExtremeBull released 2 years ago.
Electric unicycle tech is evolving at a tremendous speed. What was bleeding edge tech 2 years ago now feel old-fashioned and quaint, and with an entire lineup of 168-volt wheel likely to drop this year, for the speed fanatic, as fast as this wheel is, it just don't cut it no more, and it gets a 3.5 out of 5 for performance.
But it isn't all bad. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by how good the suspension works, because ExtremeBull have finally cracked the secret veteran code behind how they made the Sherman suspension as good as it was. And it is a beautiful thing, especially here in the pothole-strewn streets of New York City,
where we have a steady supply of terrible roads to put it to the test. Commander Pro isn't as well balanced as the Sherman S, and it is a bit top heavy compared to the EX30.
It is still a surprisingly compliant wheel to ride, so I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 for ride quality. Finally, let's talk about value. And I brought you to this graveyard here to tell you the price of this wheel, since that may be where you want to send it after hearing it. Let me just cut to the chase and tell you that the Commander Pro 50S is $4,000, which puts it in the same category as the ET Max, the GT Pro, all top of the line, best and the greatest electric unicycle you can buy right now. And as nice as it is to ride this wheel, it is not $4,000 nice. But the performance gap aren't really huge, since this is, after all, peak 134-volt performances that Bigo was able to achieve after 2 years of multiple iterations over many other wheels, as compared to the 168-volt wheels, which are so new that they're still nowhere near what their full potential could be. The greatest strength of the Commander Pro 50S, I think, is the fact that it isn't the latest and greatest. Instead, it is based on a thoroughly tested platform, is fast, powerful, and fun to ride, and likely will give you very few surprises down the road.
But it's still hard to justify that $4,000 price, and it earns a 3 out of 5 for value. So the Commander Pro 50S aren't going to allow you bragging rides for friends and stranger alike, but do you really care if it isn't the fastest and furious wheel around? Well, that is what the comment section below is for. And you know what? Once again, I ramble on too long and somehow managed to waste another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love electric unicycle, the only way for us to get better wheel is to grow as a community. So tell your friend teaching how to ride and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you.